Hello and welcome back to another chapter of It Hurts to Hope by Inquilitory on AO3. Chapter 8 Safe and Sound. Time goes on. The hermits become used to their resident watcher, and Zelkwa becomes more comfortable with the players. He's rarely alone anymore, hermits popping in with snacks or little gifts or just chat. Mumbo and Scar visit almost every single day. And Zelkwa still enjoys their visits the most. He even sometimes contributes to the conversation, asking short questions or making noises of surprise at the more ludicrous stories. Mumbo and Scar always look delighted when he attempts to join in, though they never prompt him to say more. He also meets some of the others like Tango and Zed and B-Dubs. He remembers Tango from his first day, the Netherborn who gave him soup. And he knows of B-Dubs because he was the one who gave Zelkwa the clothes he's now wearing. Zed is new to him, but he's nice and talks a lot. Cleo comes by again. This time it's a little less awkward. She asks about how the outfit is suiting Zelkwa's wings, and they discuss different styles of clothes for a while. Apparently Cleo is one of the server's seamsters, and she helped modify the clothing that was passed on to Zelkwa. So maybe she's not that bad. Zelkwa still isn't sure if he wants to trust her, but he's hesitantly acceptant. Another hermit who stops by is Etho, the spindly man who was with Cleo in the forest. His first order of business is also to apologize. Though he seems more nervous of Zelkwa than Zelkwa is of him. He doesn't stay for long, but there's something about him that makes Zelkwa want to open his eyes to get a better look at him. He doesn't, because the cuffs are still on his wrists, and he's determined to leave that part of himself far, far behind. I used to be a player, he thinks to himself when he's alone. Maybe I can be a player again. Then the door is unlocked. It's been at least a week, if not more, since Zelkwa crash-landed onto the server, and he's spent the entirety of it in the room. Of course, Exuma comes by first, and they have a long discussion, making it very clear that this is a first step of sorts. The cuffs will stay, and there'll be someone in the outer room, but it's progress. Zelkwa feels like this is a big thing for him, and for the hermits. The first time he tests the doorknob, it takes him a full 5 minutes to build up the courage to actually touch it. And then another few minutes to grasp the cold metal and touch it. Turn it. The door swings open and Impulse waves cheerfully from the table in the corner of the room. Zelkwa hovers in the doorway for a long moment before cautiously lifting a hand and waving back. After that, he wanders out of his room sometimes. His room? When had it become his room? He'll talk to whoever is outside, either sitting down in the doorway to his room, or sometimes even coming over to perch on one of the chairs. He never builds up the courage to go up the steps. A few days go by like this. Hermits visit, Zelkwa learns new things. Mumbo tries to teach him a little redstone game, but Zelkwa's not built for redstone, and he breaks one of the pieces when he tries. It takes at least 10 minutes to calm him down after that, because he falls down a spiral of apologizing and panicking and thinking Mumbo is gonna get mad, get furious, because Zelkwa broke the redstone and it's all his fault. Mumbo's not mad. He quietly soothes Zelkwa with his words, reassuring him that he's not mad, and the redstone is fixable. He does not touch Zelkwa. Scar brings cat toys so Zelkwa can play with Jelly. He shows him how to dangle the feather in front of Jelly's nose, so she tries to jump and catch it. Silk was not entirely sure what he thinks about that. Scar assures him that Jelly enjoys it, and it keeps her in shape, but he feels something twist in his gut every time he sees her miss because Scar pulls the toy away. It's like he's baiting her into hopping for something and then pulling it away again just as quickly. Silkwood knows that she's a cat, but he can't help but sympathize. He usually lets her catch the toys. Scar doesn't comment on it. Cleo comes in with a sewing kit and a notebook one day and explains that she would like to take Zelqua's measurements so she can make some better fitting clothes for him. But I like these ones, Zelqa protests, and Cleo hesitates in the middle of her stretching out her measuring tape. I get that. Don't worry, but they're all very old, and we were completely estimating your size. You should have some outfits that actually fit you. Zelqa still wants to argue, and Cleo catches the defiant tilt of his jaw. She sighs. Listen, I can make them look exactly like the ones you have, yeah? Come on, Critter. You should have something new, not B-Dub's old stuff. It takes more cahooling and maybe some bribery from Scar. But Zelqa agrees. He isn't trying to be stubborn, he just likes the feel of loved fabric. The next big step, and the one that feels like a monumental achievement, is when Exuma comes by and tells Zelqa he's going to remove the cuffs. My hermits all agree it's about time we stop treating you like a prisoner, Exuma explains as he holds the cuffs in his hands, carefully unraveling the code. Too fast and he risks hurting Zelqa, so he has to be careful with which parts he unpicks first. The cuffs snap open with a click and they fall into Exuma's gloved hands. He steps back and observes as Zelqa closes his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. Exuma hasn't told anyone, but he's terrified. This is the moment that everything hinges on, where he learns if Zelqa truly means no harm. Zelqa hasn't been fighting the cuffs or draining his energy for several days, which means he has enough to deal some substantial amount of damage. So yes, there's a part of Exuma that is scared because he's not sure if he's strong enough to stop a Watcher. Even one like Zelqa that's at half power. He takes another breath. Zelqa takes another breath, and his wings twitch behind him, half spreading to rise above his head. Faint purple eyes flicker to life around his head like a halo, blinking and looking around the room with pupilless gazes. For a single terrifying moment, every single eye fixes on Exuma with a sightless glare, and he nearly jumps out of his skin. The eyes blink shut and disappear, like they were never there, and the wings fold back. Zelqa opens his eyes, his normal eyes, and blinks owlishly, and then gives Exuma a small pelagic smile. Sorry about that, he says quietly, glancing down at his hands. The cuffs have left faint marks on his skin from where they rubbed against his wrists. Thank you. It's something I should have done a while ago, Exuma replies with a shrug, trying to deflate the thanks. You're welcome to go outside, you know. We're planning to move you out of here, but we haven't quite decided where to. Zelqa's eyes go wide at that, the surprise clear and blatant, but he nods to show he's understood, and Exuma leaves soon after. He knows that they'll have to talk eventually about Zelqua's past and Exuma's past, and both of their futures, but Exuma is not ready for that, and he's not ashamed to admit it. It's a talk that's going to be hard for both of them, and Exuma needs time to get ready for it. A few more days go by. Zelqa still ventures out of his room to converse with whoever's outside, but he never gets any closer to the stairs. Mumbo and Scar talk about it a few times over dinner, wondering what's the best way to coax him out. But someone's way ahead of them, and Impulse doesn't beat around the bush. When Zelqa comes out to say hello one afternoon, he straight up asks him if he'd like to go outside. Zelqa mulls over it for a moment, wings opening and closing unconsciously. Sure, he finally says, and Impulse just barely restrains himself from cheering out loud. Instead, he gives Zelqa an encouraging smile and steps over to the stairwell, waiting to see what Zelqua's plan is. The Watcher makes tiny hand movement, which Impulse interprets as him wanting the hermit to go first. So Impulse starts walking up the stairs, and he can't help the smile that appears when he hears the faint, almost silent footsteps pattering up the steps after him. Even though the underground room was supposed to be a temporary place to keep the Watcher, the hermits wouldn't be satisfied with a cobblestone hole in the ground. The stairs are made of stone bricks and lanterns hang at each interval. At even intervals. They emerge from the staircase onto a small stone outcropping against the side of a hill, which the entrance is tunneled into. Impulse stands aside as he comes out of the door and watches carefully as Zelqa steps out. The first thing Zelqa notices is the sunlight. It warms his face and wings, sinking into every one of his bones. It dazzles his eyes and steals his breath away. Not for long, though, because he very quickly pulls in a deep gust of fresh air, one that smells of grass and flowers and clouds. It's beautiful. He hasn't seen the sun in what feels like ages. The last time he saw it was his frantic escape when he first fell onto the server, and the time before that. Was there a time before that? He only remembered void, and darkness, and wings. But he knows the sun, loves it, and remembers it in a way that he can't quite explain. It's like deja vu, but not. There's a hermit standing nearby, sorting through a strange gray-colored box with a top that spins off. Problem, Beef? Impulse asks, and Beef straightens up, closing the box and stowing it away into his inventory. Spilled a shulker, but it's all fine now, Beef replies, and glances over at Zelqa hovering in the doorway, like he isn't sure if the grass is safe to step on. Hi, Zelqa. Hi, Zelqa whispers back, almost meows, gaze still fixed firmly on the ground. He sticks out a shoe, another thing that the hermits gave him, a pair of black shoes that are a bit loose, but fit him well, and hovers with it over the grass. He puts it down quickly before he can check it out, and stares at his foot for a long moment, firmly planted between the grass blades, right next to a colorful dandelion. Impulse seems amused, but doesn't comment, and instead turns to Beef to converse in quiet tones. Zelqa tunes them out and instead concentrates solely on his movements as his other foot slowly travels forward to land on the grass. The grass is springy under his feet, green and lush and so wonderful. Gods, he's missed grass. He's missed everything, really. The sun, the clouds, the breeze. He knows it's partially his fault that he was in the room for so long, but it feels good to finally be out. He turns to Impulse, wondering if maybe they can wander around for a bit, and watches in shock as Beef spreads strange leathery wings and pulls out a small red and white object from his inventory, yanking hard on a string on the end. Then the little object explodes, and Beef rockets away into the air. It's loud and fiery, and Selko feels terror take over every fiber of his being at the noise and the light. He panics. He spreads his own wings and leaps into the air so fast he has no idea what he's doing. He hears Impulse's sharp cry of alarm, but he can't bother to react to it because there's explosions and he's in danger and everything in his mind is screaming at him to run, run, run. Guys, please get out of here. They're gonna hurt you. You're gonna die. Run, 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 run. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where he is. But he sees trees out of the corner of his eyes, and some part of him says that trees mean safety. So he angles his wings and dives for them, cannoning into the treetops so fast it takes a mere second for him to disappear. Finding the smallest nook he can, he ducks into it and curls tightly. Screwing his eyes and eyes shut, because if he opens either, they'll see him. They'll see him and find me. Please, God, save me, he thinks, and curls his wings tightly around his trembling form. And he just took off? Like an arrow, Impulse confirms. Voice and eyes hollow as he sits on the grass by the stairwell and fixes his gaze on the bright yellow dandelion bobbing in the wind. He was so fast. He was gone before I could even react. Natural wings are faster than Elytra's. It must have been the rocket that spooked him. Doc muses and glances over at Xuma, who was pacing in a tight circle, gaze fixed firmly on his feet. X? What's your plan? I don't really have one, Xuma admits at a long length. I don't want to instigate another manhunt. We did that the first time, and it didn't end very well. I think the best we can do is send out a message to the general chat and warn everyone to keep an eye out. I'll stay here in case he comes back, Impulse declares resolutely, rising to his feet, and Xuma fixes him with a look. Who knows how long that'll take? He might not even return in the first place. We gave him freedom, the cuffs are off, he can leave at any time. He might come back in days, or he might not come back at all. Impulse, you can't stay out here. Watch me, Impulse retorts, dark eyes filled with regret and concern. Xuma understands that Impulse is blaming himself for Zelko's disappearance, and hell hath no fury like a guilt-ridden friend. Fine, he relents, because he knows that there's no use fighting. If he wants to come back, I suppose he'll come back. He pulls out his communicator and summons up the general chat, typing out a message and sending it rapidly. General update for everyone. Impulse took Zelko outside and he got spooked by a rocket. He's fled into the forest. If you see him, approach cautiously and try not to scare him. Absolutely do not chase him. Mumbo jumbo. Oh no. Dingotek. Impulse, you lost the Watcher? Impulse to Svi. Shut up, Tango. Tangotek. Oh, hey, just kidding. Xuma flicks away the admin panel and sighs, turning to look at Doc and Impulse. Doc looks concerned, but also calm. He knows that Zilka panicked and reacted on instinct. When he calms down and starts thinking more rationally, he'll most likely return. The only question is how long he'll take. Impulse, on the other hand, is practically buzzing with distraught and fiery energy. He's dead convinced it's all his fault, and he's gonna find a way to make it right. He can't exactly go out and find Zelko himself, so he's gonna stay here until Zelko comes back. Come hell or high water. Zuma tries one more time to get him to go home, but Impulse is adamant. He's staying right where he is. The admin leaves soon after so he can monitor the server's defenses from his base. He'll be able to see if Zelko leaves, and Impulse settles down to wait. It's gonna be a long night. He's pretty sure he's gonna die. He can't remember where he is, or why he's here. He can feel dirt under his feet, and maybe stone at his back. But there's no dirt and stone in the void. Is it another simulation? Are they testing for his reactions? No, wait. They're gonna kill him, hurt him again. Keep running tests till he's nothing but pilot code and stardust. Stop. He needs to run. Keep running until he dies or finds home, whichever comes first. He needs to get out of wherever he is. This server he's on, get out, keep going. You're safe. He's never been safe, not even before, because they were always there. And they're out there and watching, and he needs to leave. Shoving at the server's defenses, Zelkor reaches out with his eyes and wings and pushes at the walls, trying to find a good place where he can slip back out. The walls are thicker than he's used to, and he pauses at that. Why are they thicker? Most servers have semi-good defenses, but these ones are better than those. They're really good, almost too good. It's like they're trying to keep something out. Selka thinks and digs further into the code. Who's the admin who made these? Something in the back of his mind is saying something that he knows. That is, Voidwalker. The admin is a Voidwalker, and that's what brings Zelquid back down to Earth, grounding him in the tiny hiding place he squeezed himself into. The two closed walls illuminated faintly by his eyes and wings. Zuma. He gasps, and clarity is suddenly back, unlocked from wherever he shoved it in. Scrambling out of the nook, Zelko stands on two shaky, protesting legs, and realizes that he must have been in there for a long time. Probably hours, if not much more, while his mind spiraled and desperately searched through the server's code. He looks up at the sky and realizes that it's dark. Not the kind of dark that comes with evening, but the pale blue-gray that heralds the dawn. He's been out here all night, and with that realization comes an overwhelming wave of guilt. He's been out here all night, and no one knows where he is. He ran off and left Impulse. Oh, Void. Impulse. Behind without any way to know if he was okay. I have to get back. Zelko shakes out his sore legs and wings, cramped and stiff after being crammed into that tiny nook all night. I have to go back. He spread his wings and leaped into the air, rising up past the trees and angling so he can catch a wind current. Eyes casting around for a familiar landmark. The trees seem to thin out to his left, so he heads for there. He knows that they were in a hilly field, so getting out of the forest is a good start to finding his way back. As the trees are slowly replaced with grass and more uneven terrain, Zelko begins to pick out areas he vaguely remembers from his frantic flight. The staircase entrance should be there. He immediately angled towards it, energy suddenly taking over every inch of his body, and he's just about to fold his wings and dive down. He falters in the air and almost plummets to the ground before he can catch himself, gliding in a wide circle so he can get a better look at the entrance. There's a dark lump by the door, and for a moment Zokwa can't quite puzzle out what it is. Until he does. And he almost stalls mid-flight again. That's Impulse. He's sitting on the ground, leaning against the doorframe with his head resting on his chest. Even from all the way in the air, Zokwa can tell that he's sleeping, slow breaths causing his head to rise and fall in even rhythm. A blanket is draped around his shoulder, but in a clumsy sort of way that probably means a different hermit stopped by to give to him, most likely to ward off the chill of the night. Which means that Impulse spent the entire night out here, waiting for Zokwa to come back. And that makes him feel terrible. Zokwa lands as close as he dares without disturbing Impulse, and pads forward on silent feet until he's crouching next to the slumbering hermit. He watches him for a long moment, debating the several options in his head. He can simply wake him up. That seems to be the best idea. He can also leave, but that one is immediately tossed aside with an intensity that he himself is surprised by. And a memory flicks through his head of a wing brushing against the shoulder of another person. He hasn't touched anyone since that day. But it's chilly in this pre-dawn weather, and both their breaths rise from their mouths in little puffs. Zokwa settles down next to Impulse and reaches over with a wing, tilting it over the hermit, just barely touching him. He pauses, breath stilling in his chest as he waits to see what will happen. Impulse doesn't react, but his shoulders seem to relax imperceptibly, and he lets out a small sigh. Zokwa takes this as a good sign, and lays the wing more along his back. A warm weight against Impulse's black t-shirt, and the blanket thrown over it. Zokwa is still tense, unsure if he's doing the right thing, but he sees as the unconscious tension melts from Impulse's figure, and he makes small noises of content through his sleep. Then he lifts sideways, and his head falls lightly onto Zokwa's shoulder. Zokwa freezes. He's never been this close to a player before, other than when he was being restrained by Scar, and he has no idea what to do. His mind completely blanks, nothing but white noise rushing through his ears. So he does nothing. He curls his wing farther around Impulse and watches as the sun creeps over the horizon, slowly warming his face and wings. He's shivering imperceptibly, but his sweater is warm enough to keep out most of the chill. Impulse stirs, and Zokwa's attention is immediately redirected to him. He watches in tense silence as the hermit takes in a deep breath and tightens his hold on the blanket. Great stars, Zed, you've left the door open again, he mutters, then blinks open his eyes. His bleary gaze locks first with the purple feathered wing around his back, then shifts to Zokwa sitting with his shoulder pressed against the other's, and watching him with dark eyes. Hey, you, Impulse greets quietly. And Zokwa inches his wing away from Impulse's back, folding it along his spine again, as he stands up and silently scoots away. Impulse stands as well, stumbling slightly as he straightens his legs and pulls the blanket further around his shoulders. Have you been here the whole time? Impulse asks, and Selquest shakes his head no, then holds up two fingers. 2 hours? A nod. Oh, well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm so sorry Beef's elytra scared you. I had no idea. I just didn't think. Yeah, I'm sorry. He pauses and looks Zelko over. You came back. Another nod. Why? You looked cold, is Zelqua's only reply, and Impulse doesn't question it. Instead, he gestures with an awkward hand towards the stairwell, and a few minutes later they're cobbling together a messy breakfast of bread and cold soup. When Exuma comes to inform Impulse that there's been no change to the server's walls, he finds the pair sitting around the table wrapped in blankets and drinking lukewarm tea. I'm glad to see you're alright, Exuma simply says, and leaves them alone soon after. Mumbo and Scar come by, most likely informed by the admin, with Mumbo being internally anxious and Scar being amused. I told you he was going to be fine. You shouldn't have been so worried, Scar says cheerfully, elbowing Mumbo in his side. Mumbo stutters out a protest about how he wasn't worried. Or, yes, maybe he was, but that's certainly no business of Scar's. Impulse and Zelka ignored them and continued their breakfast. There is no point in trying to interrupt, though there is some part of Zelka that's ridiculously happy that Mumbo was worried for him. Truth be told, he is not entirely sure why he chose to come back. With the cuffs off, it would take mere minutes for him to slip off the server, and with no great fanfare. Like last time, either. And yet, there's some part of him that was so insistent on returning to make sure that Impulse was okay, and see Mumbo and Scar again. Silka isn't ready to accept it, but there is a reason he returned. He's ignoring it for now, but at some point it's going to come to the surface, along with a whole bundle of emotions he's not sure he's ready to deal with. He feels safe here. It scares him more than he likes to admit. And that is the end of Chapter 8.